When you're watching Ghost in the Shell, Akira, Blade Runner, beyond how beautiful those visuals are, how do you feel emotionally? Don't you have a strange of mixed emotions? Calmness, sadness, and a very familiar feeling of emptiness. And what if that emptiness isn't just the mood, but it's a warning? Cyberpunk genres didn't only predict the future of tech, but the future of our entire creative economy. A future where your brand, your voice, your artwork gets flattened into the void of empty simulation. And this video offers you a compass. Why we are feeling this creative void, and how AI is supercharging this simulation. And I'll give you 3 practices to reclaim meaning as an artist, a marketer, a creator. Let's look at one of the scenes from the original Blade Runner. The world is overstimulating. You got Japanese neon signs, Chinese calligraphy, and then right beside it, you got some Egyptian patterned condom. Does it really mean anything? Cultural fragments are being remixed until the meaning disappeared. They're only there for the vibe, for the aesthetics. And here's the part that people miss. This isn't just about cinematic aesthetics, it's a pattern across all cyberpunk genre. And there's a term for this. It's called postmodernism. And learning this concept will make you see real life so much more clearly. And you will understand why you're anxious about AI and the creative economy. So hear me out. I first learned this concept when I was doing media studies. I had to read this handwritten film theory paper on Blade Runner. In plain terms, postmodernism has a few traits. 1, culture gets flattened into aesthetics and visual stimulus. That's exactly what you're seeing in Blade Runner. 2nd, the copy becomes more familiar than the original. Let me repeat that again. The copy becomes more familiar to you than the original. Once you understand this concept, you can unsee it. This is exactly why younger generation will look at Snoop Dogg dance and they go, that's a Fortnite dance. And that's exactly why music labels keep monetizing on dead artists. And in fast fashion that recycles styles from subcultures it doesn't even understand. And film? Dude, how many Marvel multiverse is there going to be? Tron, Snow White? And the truth is, we stopped asking where things even come from. And a lot of you are 3D artists here, so I'll give you an example. If you go to Unreal Engine Marketplace, you'll see that people are selling AI-generated neon signs that call it Japanese. But those signs are not even in Japanese characters. That has no meanings other than for the look. So when we say that things feel empty, this is why we're consuming echoes with no memory of the original. And if your work feels harder to explain, to price, or to stand out, you're not imagining it. This is a trend that is baked into the system, and something is accelerating this simulation very fast. And you probably know what's supercharging this phenomenon. It's the AI. AI didn't create this void of simulations, but it definitely industrialized it. It scrapes billions of creations and then spits back a remixed, polished, fast, but hollow. It looks right, it sounds right, but what's the meaning? And that's exactly why you see people putting so much grains and noise overlays on top of AI generated artwork just to create that nostalgic vibes, to blend in. And the system loves it. Why? Because it's cheap, familiar, and it's infinite. The cost, on the other hand, is authenticity. That feeling that you had that your work is starting to blur into everything else, that's why you might feel empty. So now the question is, what do we actually do? You don't have the power to change policies like how YouTube is restricting the monetization on AI generated content. The answer to what do we do is we don't fight against the current. If you know it's going to rain tomorrow, are you going to shoot a missile in the sky to change the weather? No. Instead, we learn how to be. By doing that, you can create work that is so authentically to you and your brand. The purpose and meaning become irreplaceable. And here are 3 practices how you can achieve that. The first practice isn't about looking outwards for solution. It's looking inwards to find personal meaning. Because you are a conscious mind shaped by a lifetime of experiences of memories, language, emotions, and loss. Sure, the AI might mimic your tone if you just feed them your life, but it won't know what a moment felt like. Think of that scene in Blade Runner. A single, real memory is the most valuable and unfakeable thing in existence. And that power isn't the data points of the memory, it's the emotional reality it represents. And that's your edge as an artist, creator, marketer. That is meaning, created through lived experiences embedded in your work, your brand, and your story. Here comes the second practice. How do you shift that personal story to the culture around you? A lot of us will find references on the internet when we're creating something, and we'll probably just call it a day. But if you do a deep dive into the culture, you will find a lot more meanings. For example, in this trailer, on the surface, yes, it's a mecha, but isn't the viewing experience even better if you know that this mecha's face is built on a traditional Chinese mask called 脸谱? Or another example, don't you feel so much more meaningful when the creator of your favorite game references real location with deep cultural history? So when you create something, doesn't matter if it's a marketing campaign or an artwork, ask yourself 2 questions. What's the real cultural story here? And how does my story connect with this one? And driven by your curiosity, I promise you, your creation will become so much more than content. It becomes an adventure, cultural conversation. How fun is that to find meaning and purpose in your own work? Doesn't matter how many likes you get, you're fulfilled. Even if you're grounded in your story and connected to the culture, there's one more practice that we must do. We have to learn how to be. I think about this a lot. How do we stay creative when we're always just overwhelmed by what is to come? What tools are there? What systems we have to build? I've asked a lot of creative directors, even software engineer at OpenAI. And if you asked me that question a month ago, I'd probably give you a very different answer. But here is what I know now. I've read your comments. I know that most of you guys are sharp thinkers, creators who want to understand the whole system and landscape before you even move. But sometimes that intelligence becomes a trap. You get really good at analyzing, predicting, and planning, and never just be or do. I lived in that trap. I journal 5 pages a day, and you've probably done something similar, watching Unreal Engine tutorials without opening the software. And by the way, if that's your problem, I have a video right here. That will be the last video that you will watch to actually start. We do these overthinking, overplanning, and predictions because the mind craves control. But you don't learn how to swim by reading about water. You learn by getting in. So the breakthrough that I found was to simply take a deep breath and to just be. And from that place of peace, we take actions. That's what alignment feels like. A sense of purpose and clarity. If you're getting anything out of this video, I want you to know that earning authenticity is not a war to win. Instead, it's a self to return to. Your story, your culture, and your aligned actions. That's what makes you authentic. So tell me, what piece of work, doesn't matter if it's painting, animations, or AI generated artwork, that you feel resonated with, that you find yourself in? Drop it in the comments, because I want to make this space where meaning comes back.